The harsh life at sea brought equally harsh punishments. Here are the top 10 most brutal methods used to enforce order, each designed to instill fear and maintain strict discipline among pirates and sailors. Number 1. Keelhauling. Considered one of the most terrifying and painful punishments, keelhauling was used to discipline unruly crew members or those accused of serious crimes like mutiny. The victim was stripped, bound with ropes, and often weighted down to ensure they sank enough. They were then dragged across the underside of the ship, passing beneath the hull. The ship's hull, typically covered with sharp barnacles and shellfish, inflicted deep, painful cuts on the skin, along with risks of crushing and suffocation due to water pressure. Survivors of this ordeal were rare, and those who did often suffered infections and permanent scars. This punishment, of Dutch origin, was common in some navies and used as a means to intimidate crews aboard pirate ships. Number 2. Flogging with the cat-o'-nine tails. This whip consisted of multiple leather strands, each knotted or embedded with metal and glass shards to increase pain and impact. The long strands inflicted deep cuts and abrasions, and the pain was so intense that many victims would faint or scream uncontrollably. This method was used for offenses ranging from theft to insubordination, and the punishment could be so severe that many sailors were left permanently scarred, both physically and mentally. In some cases, the whips were soaked in salt or brine to amplify suffering, transforming the moment into a traumatic event that left both mental and physical scars. Number 3. Marooning on deserted islands. An infamous pirate practice. Marooning meant leaving a crew member or prisoner on an isolated island, often with nothing but a small supply of water, gunpowder, a weapon, and one bullet. The idea was that without sufficient supplies, the condemned would face hunger, thirst, and exposure to the harsh climate. In some cases, a revolver with a single bullet was provided so the victim could choose to end their suffering instead of facing a slow death. This punishment, used to discourage insurrections and betrayals, was especially terrifying due to the extreme isolation and imminent death. Besides serving as a clear warning to others, it encouraged loyalty, as any sign of rebellion could lead to this fate. Number 4. Walking the plank. This punishment involved forcing a prisoner to walk to the end of a plank, under the threat of pointed swords or guns. The victim knew they would fall into the sea and, in most cases, drown or be attacked by sharks, although less common in real life than pop culture suggests. Its theatricality terrified both prisoners and crew. Pirates often used this practice to intimidate witnesses, making it a kind of spectacle execution, designed to instill panic and despair in those watching, ensuring control over everyone. For the victim, the psychological terror of each step made the punishment especially cruel. Number 5. Hanging in chains. After execution, the victim's body was placed in an iron cage and displayed in ports and busy areas, where it would rot in full view. The practice served as a powerful warning to those contemplating the same path, maintaining public terror. In some cases, the cages were custom fitted with iron bands molded to the body, which prolonged the preservation of the remains, leaving them exposed for years. This macabre display punished not only the dead, but also instilled fear in the living. In places like London and some colonies, these cages were common and strategically placed to be visible, serving as a symbol of relentless punishment. Number 6. Beating to death. In cases of disobedience or serious crimes, punishment was administered in front of the crew to ensure an example of control. The beatings were brutal, with offenders tied or held down while being struck with rods, iron bars, or chains. In some cases, the victim was beaten until they passed out or died, ensuring that discipline was maintained through fear. This punishment was not merely an execution but an act of intimidation, as the entire process was witnessed by everyone, reminding them that anyone could be next. This display of violence guaranteed that authority aboard was unquestionable. Number 7. Abandonment with only one bullet. This practice was exceptionally cruel, where prisoners abandoned on deserted islands were given a revolver with a single bullet. This seemingly ironic provision was not for self-defense or hunting, but rather so that in the face of inevitable suffering from a lack of water and food, the victim could choose suicide. This macabre gift forced the abandoned to choose between a slow, agonizing death from hunger and thirst, or a quick one by their own hand. This form of abandonment was common among pirates and was part of their system of discipline and punishment. Many pirates, like the infamous Black Bart, Bartholomew Roberts, used abandonment on islands as a way to maintain order and demonstrate what would happen to those who disobeyed the ship's code. Number 8. Wounds treated with brine. After flogging, the victim's wounds would be covered with brine, intensifying pain and slowing healing. Brine caused wounds to sting and become inflamed, amplifying suffering. This treatment caused excruciating and prolonged pain, making recovery much slower. By combining the pain of the lash with the burning of brine, this practice served as a persistent reminder of the captain's absolute power, even after the main punishment had been applied. Sailors knew that defying authority meant not only flogging, but also a terrible healing process. Number 9. Quick and brutal executions. In many cases, pirates and sailors preferred quick punishment, such as shooting or stabbing, to deal with traitors, deserters, or inconvenient prisoners. This direct execution served as a practical method of eliminating threats to discipline and was also used when patience was short. Quick executions were especially common when captains considered the offender an immediate risk, as it led to instant death with no chance for questions or resistance. Being so final, this punishment demonstrated the unquestionable authority of the captain or pirate leader. Number 10. Impalement or mutilation. In some ships and maritime cultures, mutilation and impalement were reserved for serious offenders. These practices involved the removal of limbs, fingers, ears, or other body parts, serving as a visible and humiliating mark of disobedience or betrayal. Impalement, used in extreme cases, involved piercing the body with a stake, leaving the victim to die slowly. This method was rarely used, but when applied, it was a terrifying warning to others. Mutilations and impalements were seen as such drastic punishments that even rumors of them were enough to deter disobedience. If you found these brutal punishments as chilling as we did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to uncover more dark tales from history. Let us know in the comments. What punishment shocked you the most? Until next time, stay curious and stay fearless.